Most men are not living by design. They are living by default. They wake up, react to whatever's in front of them, perform whatever version of themselves the day demands, and then call that a life. It is not a life. It is compliance with better lighting. They repeat routines they never chose, speak beliefs they never examined, and bend themselves to fit environments that were built to reduce them, not expand them. Machiavelli would have looked at that and called it what it is: weakness disguised as normalcy. A man who does not govern himself will be governed by whatever is louder than his own mind. That means circumstances. That means pressure. That means the opinions of weaker people with stronger influence. And that means his life will slowly become the expression of forces he never consciously agreed to obey. If something pulled you here, it was not random. It was the part of you that is no longer willing to sleep through its own potential. The part that has watched too many men shrink, bow, explain themselves, and hand away their power piece by piece until there was nothing left but acceptable mediocrity. That part of you is not confused. It is awake. And once a man becomes awake, the old life starts to feel unbearable. This is not motivation. Motivation is unstable. It arrives when you feel good and disappears the moment the world becomes difficult. Motivation is emotional fuel for men who have not yet built structure. What you need is architecture, a code, something colder, stronger, and more reliable than inspiration. Machiavelli understood power as discipline, not fantasy. He understood that the man who cannot master himself becomes material in someone else's strategy. No exception, no negotiation. If you want to become the man people cannot dismiss, manipulate, or casually step around, then you must first become the man you cannot continue ignoring. That means no more running from your reflection. No more numbing discomfort with noise, distraction, company, or delay. No more waiting for permission to become what you already know you are capable of becoming. The first law is brutal because it is simple. Know exactly where you are and stop lying to yourself about it. Not where you plan to be, not who you say you are. Where you are, your habits, your discipline, your weakness, your patterns, your current level of self-command. That truth is the only place power can begin. Before you conquer anything outside yourself, you must win the war already happening inside you. This is the part most men avoid because it offers no applause, no aesthetic, no social reward. Everyone wants tactics, influence, status, leverage. Very few want to confront the internal disorder that makes all external success unstable. They want the crown without the internal architecture required to carry it. So they build ambition on top of weak habits, emotional volatility, self-deception, and unexamined fear, and then they wonder why everything cracks when real pressure arrives. Machiavelli was not studying men who look powerful in comfort. He studied men who remained effective under strain. He understood that your greatest enemy is rarely another man. Your greatest enemy is the version of yourself that still chooses ease over growth, distraction over discipline, and comfort over transformation. That enemy is dangerous because it does not always sound weak. It often sounds reasonable. It speaks in your voice. It uses your past wounds, your insecurity, your memories of failure, and your fear of humiliation to convince you that delay is intelligence, that hesitation is wisdom, that waiting is strategy. Most men listen to that voice every day and call it being realistic. It is not realism. It is internal sabotage presented with calm language. Machiavelli's code leaves no room for that kind of softness. It requires a ruthless audit of the self, not for shame, not for self-hatred, for precision. You cannot eliminate what you refuse to identify, so every habit that weakens you must be named. Every excuse that protects you from discomfort must be dragged into light. Every environment, routine, dependency, and relationship that pulls your energy downward must be examined with the eyes of a strategist, not the heart of a man who still wants everyone to approve of him. This is not about becoming hard for the sake of hardness. It is about refusing to remain vulnerable to the same internal forces that have already cost you enough. The man who wins this war first begins to move differently. He thinks more clearly. His decisions become cleaner. His emotions stop dictating his behavior. He carries a frequency most people do not recognize because they are still living from impulse. But you will recognize it when it appears in you. It feels like self-respect made visible. Then comes one of the most difficult truths for men who were trained to be useful before they were trained to be powerful. You must prioritize yourself without apology. Society has spent generations teaching men that self-prioritization is selfish, that placing your own growth above the comfort of others is cruel, that making your own standards non-negotiable somehow makes you arrogant. Machiavelli would have seen through that instantly. He understood that a man who does not put himself first becomes a resource for everyone else's demands, useful when needed, praised when obedient, discarded when empty. And many men confuse this pattern with love. They think access means loyalty. They think being needed means being valued, so they keep giving. Time, energy, attention, emotional labor, opportunities, patience. And then one day they realize they have been reduced to function, a role, a convenience, something consumed, not respected. That is not loyalty being rewarded. That is weakness being harvested. Prioritizing yourself is not cruelty. It is the beginning of structure. A man without a strong relationship to his own worth cannot build power because he will constantly negotiate himself away. He will over-explain, over-give, overcompensate. He will abandon his own direction the moment someone else becomes uncomfortable with it. Machiavelli respected the man who knew his own value so deeply that he did not need to market it emotionally. He simply organized his life around it. That is what self-prioritization looks like in practice. It means your time is treated as finite and strategic, not casually available to anyone who asks. It means your decisions are made according to your vision, not other people's moods. It means you are willing to disappoint people whose comfort depended on your weakness. It means your body is not treated as a vessel for indulgence, but as an instrument of force. It means your mind is not left exposed to every influence and distraction that wants access. It means cutting off anything that consistently reduces your strength, whether that thing is a habit, a person, a routine, or an environment. This is not isolation. This is selection. And the man who selects carefully what enters his life becomes harder to destabilize by default. Silence becomes your next weapon. Most men cannot stop talking because they are still trying to prove they deserve space. They explain their decisions, announce their plans, defend their boundaries, and narrate their thoughts, as if language itself creates legitimacy. It does not. It leaks power. Machiavelli understood something the modern world has forgotten in its addiction to visibility. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is strategy. The room belongs to the man who is not desperate to fill it. The conversation belongs to the man who is not afraid to let tension breathe. In a world drowning in self-disclosure, the man who is selective with words becomes difficult to read and therefore difficult to influence. People cannot easily manipulate what they cannot accurately map. And uncertainty creates caution. Caution creates respect. The man who speaks less sees more. He notices how tone changes when pressure enters. He notices the pauses, the contradictions, the forced laughter, the way people reveal their insecurities while trying to hide them. He sees what emotionally noisy men miss because emotionally noisy men are too busy broadcasting to observe. Most men destroy their own position by over-explaining themselves to people who had already chosen not to understand them. Every unnecessary explanation is a quiet confession of insecurity. Every attempt to make the wrong people see your value is a withdrawal from your authority. Machiavelli's man does not beg to be understood. He acts, observes, adapts, and lets results speak in a language stronger than discussion. When you stop announcing your next move becomes more dangerous. When you stop making your interior world easily available, people begin to project into the silence. And in that projection, they reveal themselves. You must also build yourself into something that cannot be easily replaced. Mediocrity is seductive because it is socially rewarded. It asks nothing from you except continued surrender, no sacrifice, no edge, no private discipline, no willingness to become uncommon. It tells you that rest is always earned, that your current level is enough, that your softness is humanity. But mediocrity has no protection built into it. The average man is replaceable because he has built nothing rare inside himself. Machiavelli did not write for average men. He wrote for men who understood that life is either building you or burying you, and it will not stop to ask which you prefer. So ask yourself honestly, what are you constructing right now with your hours, your habits, your attention, your choices? Not what do you plan to build? Not what do you fantasize about becoming? What are you actively building? Every day, deposit something into the man you are becoming. There is no neutral. There is no pause. Time is always converting your behavior into identity. The man Machiavelli respected most was not the loudest or the most admired. It was the man who made himself indispensable through competence, self-command, and developed ability. Not by pleasing, not by performing, by becoming useful at a level others could not casually imitate. He sharpened his thinking, he built his body, he developed his skills, he trained his mind under pressure until he became the kind of man power naturally moves toward. Not because he asked for it, but because he built gravity. Build your body until it can carry force. Build your mind until it can remain clear in chaos. Build skills that create independence. Build emotional control until nothing external can easily hijack your judgment. Build reputation through repeated action until people trust your consistency before they trust your words. When you do this long enough, you stop needing to chase opportunities. They begin to move toward you because the world is starved for men who are both capable and stable. Then comes emotional mastery, and this is where boys end and serious men begin. Every collapse you have ever experienced traces back, if you examine it honestly enough, to a moment when emotion took over territory that logic should have owned. You reacted when you should have watched. You exploded when you should have stayed still. You reached when you should have withdrawn. You trusted when the room was already telling you not to. Emotion without discipline is not depth, it is liability. And in power, liability is not something you romanticize. It is something you eliminate. Machiavelli understood that the most dangerous man is not the most emotional, but the most controlled. The man who feels everything and leaks nothing. The man who can absorb insult, betrayal, pressure, and uncertainty without surrendering the quality of his decisions. That man cannot be manipulated through ordinary means because his buttons are no longer exposed. The weak mistake emotional display for authenticity, but authenticity without self-command is just vulnerability advertised. Every time you let your anger show uncontrollably, you teach people where to press. Every time your fear alters your posture, you show them where your ceiling is. Every time your neediness leaks into tone, timing, or behavior, you teach manipulators what to offer and what to withhold. The Stoics understood what Machiavelli also knew. The pause between stimulus and response is where sovereignty lives. A reaction is automatic. A response is chosen. The man who can insert thought before action owns something most people never build: real control. So the next time pressure arrives, watch yourself before you move. Notice the urge to react. Notice the hunger to defend, to explain, to retaliate. Then ask the only question that matters: does this response serve my future or only my wound? That question alone will save you from more damage than any tactic you will ever learn. Your circle determines your ceiling, not in a soft, inspirational way, in a brutal, structural way. The men around you either expand your standard or normalize your decline. There is no neutral company. Proximity is influence. Influence becomes permission. Permission becomes identity. And identity becomes destiny, if unexamined. Machiavelli was ruthless about counsel because he understood that the wrong people do not need to sabotage you directly to ruin you. Their assumptions are enough. Their comfort is enough. Their subtle resistance to growth is enough. Small men do not always attack your ambition openly. Sometimes they joke about it, delay it, question it, shrink it with concern, disguised as realism. And because they care for your older, smaller self, they will interpret your transformation as disloyalty. Let them. You must look at your circle with strategic honesty, not nostalgic emotion. Who challenges you upward? Who protects your growth instead of just your feelings? Who tells you the truth when the truth is inconvenient? And who becomes strange the moment you begin operating at a level that exposes their own stagnation. Those people are not simply different. They are ceilings, and ceilings must be broken if you intend to rise. Replace emotional loyalty with directional loyalty. Build around men who are building. Sit in rooms that pressure your growth. Place yourself near standards that make your current level feel insufficient. Because no man rises completely alone, but many men fail because they rose with the wrong people attached to them. Then you must become unreadable, not artificial, not deceptive in a cheap way, strategic. Most powerful men in history were difficult to fully map. Not because they lied about everything, but because they understood that complete transparency is a gift to opposition. When people can read you completely, they can prepare for you. When they can predict your needs, fears, and reactions, they can shape the terrain beneath your feet. Most men today offer this information freely. Their desires, wounds, frustrations, and next moves are publicly available. Then they wonder why influence finds them so easily. Machiavelli understood that information about the self is currency. Spend it poorly, and you become vulnerable. Spend it carefully, and you become difficult to approach casually. The unreadable man does not reveal his full architecture to every pair of eyes. He chooses what is seen. He controls pace. He lets people discover only what serves the moment. And because he does this, he carries mystery. Mystery draws attention. It creates speculation. It causes others to think about him more than he thinks about them. That is power, not the weak power of image, but the quiet power of withheld depth. Let people underestimate you. Let them feel safe misreading you. Let them mistake silence for emptiness. You do not need to correct every false assumption. Premature clarity removes strategic advantage. Speak less than you know. Reveal less than you feel. Share less than you plan. This is not cowardice, it is containment. Eventually, everything converges into one outcome. You become a man no one can ignore, not because you seek attention, but because the work has altered your presence. Your mind is sharper, your reactions are cleaner, your standards are visible, your words are fewer but heavier, your value is harder to replace. Your silence is no longer empty, it is loaded. Men feel that before they understand it. Rooms shift around it. Conversations adapt around it. Weak people may resent it. Strong people recognize it immediately. This is the man Machiavelli wrote for. Not the performer, not the talker, not the one begging to be seen. The one whose internal architecture is so strong that his presence becomes consequence. And now the code is yours, not as entertainment, as instruction. Everything you have heard means nothing if it remains language. Knowledge without execution is vanity in a more sophisticated form. So take one standard from this and enforce it today. One habit to cut, one silence to keep, one boundary to hold, one distraction to eliminate, one truth to face without flinching. This is how the code becomes real, not through agreement, but through repetition, not through emotion, but through structure. The world does not reward the most talented man. It rewards the most disciplined, the most deliberate, the most internally governed. So become that man. Become ruthless with your own weakness. Become precise with your energy. Become selective with your access. Become unreadable. Become irreplaceable. Become the man who no longer waits for permission to rise. If this hits something real in you, like the video, subscribe, and in the comments write, "I am the code," not for me, for yourself. Because the moment you can say that honestly, the old version of you is already losing ground. I'll see you in the next one.